Your face will shine with divine light. 12 will seek your heavenly calling. In the heart of a quaint village, nestled among the rolling green hills of England, a humble church stood as the beacon of hope. Every Sunday, the air would fill with the scent of burning candles, and the echoes of heartfelt hymns would rise to the heavens. Margaret, a devoted woman in her late 40s, led the vibrant prayer group that thrived within those sacred walls. Her gentle spirit and unwavering faith drew villagers together, praying fervently for the sick and the downtrodden. But shadows loomed over her once blissful life. Her beloved son, Daniel, who had once been a sweet, vibrant boy, succumbed to the cold grip of addiction, wandering the streets like a ghost, a mere shadow of his former self. Each day felt darker than the last. As she prayed for miraculous intervention, her heart ached at the thought of those around her witnessing her anguish. Doubt crept into her soul, whispering that God had turned away. "Why are my prayers unheard?" she cried out in the dead of night, tears streaming down her cheeks. One Sunday, during a particularly intense service, as the congregation gathered, she felt the weight of despair crushing her spirit. Suddenly, a voice as clear as a bell cut through the atmosphere, resonating within her. "Your trials are but the soil from which faith grows. Through Daniel, light will shine, and 12 souls will find their calling." The villagers gasped, the air thick with a swirling sense of divine anticipation. They murmured among themselves, fear and reverence mingling in the sacred space. Margaret felt a flicker of hope ignite within her heart, but as days turned into weeks, she found herself grappling with the gnawing doubts again. One bleak evening, as the stars twinkled like diamonds overhead, the weight of her despair felt insurmountable. Suddenly, a luminous figure appeared before her, radiating warmth and grace, claiming to be an angel sent to uphold God's promise. "Hold fast, Margaret," he urged gently, his eyes shining with light. "Do not consider worldly solutions. The divine plan is unfolding." Margaret took a deep breath, hope swirling in her chest, yet the smell of despair lingered. "What if I falter?" she whispered, racked with uncertainty. Just then, Daniel's journey took a miraculous turn. One night, as he lay in the gutters of the village, the prayers of his mother enveloped him like a warm embrace, casting out the darkness that surrounded him. With every prayer lifted on his behalf, something shifted deep inside him. Shimmering glimmers of God's love seeped into his hardened heart, awakening a desperate longing for redemption. Then, like seeds sprouting from fertile ground, a revival ignited in the village. A group of 12, once lost, now stood with Margaret in prayer. They found their heavenly calling, bonded together in unshakable faith. The church, once filled with whispers of doubt, now vibrated with songs of joy and triumphant
praises. But the journey wasn't over. Margaret felt the weight of what lay ahead. New trials awaited, and she couldn't help but question whether she would remain steadfast amidst the uncertainty. With each glowing testimony, the villagers rejoiced, but would they continue seeking God's will? As the sun set on this miraculous day, they held their breath, preparing for the sacred mysteries that still awaited. As the dawn broke over the quaint village, a sense of fresh promise filled the air. The sunlight streamed through the old church's stained glass, casting colorful patterns on the worn wooden pews. Margaret, standing before her prayer group, felt the weight of hope and expectancy, yet fears still lingered in her heart. "Each sunrise is a chance for miracles," she reminded the 12 who had gathered, "but we must remain vigilant and faithful." Their eyes glimmered with determination as they nodded, ready to embark on another day of prayerful fervor. Weeks had passed since the angel's visit, and despite the powerful shift in the atmosphere of the church, uncertainty loomed on the horizon. Margaret's heart yearned for her son, for the mother within her longed to see Daniel return fully to the light. Could the power of their prayers truly bring him back? She glanced at the group, sensing their fragile faith,
knowing it mirrored her own struggle. Meanwhile, in the depths of darkness, Daniel wandered through the streets, battling his demons. A wrestling match raged within him, between despair and the spark of hope ignited by his mother's unwavering love. He found himself sitting on an old wooden bench one chilly night, the weight of his choices pressing heavily on his chest. "How did I end up here?" he whispered to the wind. But beneath the question lay a stirring, a flicker of belief that he could still change. Back in the church, Margaret led the group in a prayer circle, candles flickering and shadows dancing around them. They prayed for strength, not only for Daniel, but also for themselves, that they may remain steadfast in their own journeys. "Lord, fill us with your light," they intoned together, voices rising and mingling with the scent of sweet incense. At that moment, amid the prayers and soft illumination, Margaret sensed that angels were indeed present, their wings brushing softly against her soul, whispering encouragement. "Remember," she felt them say, "darkness cannot extinguish the light. Shine brightly." The following day, Daniel found a small glimmer of hope in an unexpected place. A stranger sat next to him on that same old bench, a kind face aglow with warmth. "The world may seem heavy," the man said gently, "but every day is a new opportunity to rise again. You just have to reach out for help." Daniel stared, surprised by the sincerity in the stranger's eyes. Just like that, something shifted within him. The realization struck, he's not alone in this battle. Maybe he didn't have to walk the path of recovery alone. Back in the village, Margaret felt a stirring in her spirit as she received news that Daniel was seeking help. Joy and relief washed over her, and she rallied the 12 around her once more. "We must pray harder now than ever before," she proclaimed, her heart racing with anticipation. "The battle rages, but victory is near." They gathered, each holding candles that flickered with fervent purpose, their hearts united. It was in this intimacy of prayer that transformation unfolded, not only for Daniel, but for all of them. As they prayed, each individual prayer for strength and healing began knitting their souls together in divine unity. Yet, as the church doors opened to let in the chill evening air, a shadow slipped past. A storm was brewing, a test of faith that would soon reveal the heart of Margaret's prayer and the true depth of the villagers' commitment. As whispers of discontent grew among those still tethered to worry, Margaret felt the familiar weight of doubt creeping back in. "But what if our prayers are not enough?" a soft voice echoed in the back, stirring unease. With determination, she stood firm, but the churning spirits around her threatened to dim the light they had ignited together. "When the storm does come, and if it rains doubt and fear upon us, what then will we do?" she pondered nervously. While spirits faltered and doubt lingered, a divine revelation was awaiting to break forth. Would they hold on to hope, or would they bend beneath the pressures of despair? A moment loomed on the edge of a promise, and Margaret sensed that soon they would be thrust into the heart of an extraordinary test. What lay on the horizon was uncertain, but filled with sacred possibilities. As she took a breath, sensing the weight of the sacred promise, Margaret prepared her heart for the unexpected. Would they emerge from the darkness renewed, or would they falter when faced with the tempest ahead? The answer awaited just beyond the glimmer of dawn. The morning light softened as it entered the church, illuminating the faces of the gathered villagers. They felt the weight of yesterday's worries, the oppressive shadow of doubt still lingering in the corners of their hearts. Yet, amidst this unease, a quiet resolve began to brew within them. Margaret stood at the forefront, her heart steady and hopeful, but equally aware of the storm gathering outside. "Let us not be swayed by fear," she called, her voice firm but gentle. "Today, we stand united in prayer. We will lift each other, especially Daniel, into the light of God's grace. Let us remind ourselves that even the fiercest storms serve a purpose." As she spoke, Margaret felt the flicker of faith ignite once more in her group. Each person nodded, eyes brightening with determination. We are not here by accident. God has gathered us as a family." Her words hung in the air, dripping with assurance. They formed a circle, hands entwined, grounding one another in unity. They began to pray. Their voices melded into a harmonic chorus, reverberating against the walls of the ancient church. Candle flames danced, casting playful shadows that tucked themselves in the corners like a loving embrace. In that sacred moment, something remarkable began to stir. A peace settled heavily upon them. Even those who had experienced doubt felt a gentle warmth spread through their souls, wrapping around their spirits like a protective cloak. Meanwhile, in the depths of his own darkness, Daniel sat in a support group meeting where true stories of pain and redemption echoed around him. His heart raced, stirred by the honesty shared by others. It was not just a gathering, it was a testament to the common humanity they all shared in battles fought against despair. He listened closely, absorbing each word as if they were lifelines. When it was his turn, he hesitated. But then, the image of his mother, unwavering in her faith, flooded his thoughts. "I just want to change," he said, his voice trembling yet bold. "I'm tired of feeling lost. I want to live, not just exist." As his confession poured out, the atmosphere shifted. Compassion surged around him, filling every void of sadness. One by one, his fellow attendees offered support, their eyes compassionate and understanding. "You're not alone, Daniel. Together we can fight this battle," a woman said softly. Outside, the winds began to howl. Clouds rolled in, dark and foreboding, casting a shadow over the village. Margaret felt the change instantly, a heaviness pressing upon her chest. Her heart raced as she prayed for protection over Daniel, over her friends, over herself. The weight of disbelief thickened in the church. The motherly instinct arose within her as she sought wisdom. We must not turn to despair. We have the power to shift the atmosphere around us. Let us declare God's truth amidst the coming storm. As Margaret spoke, the group responded with fervor, raising their voices higher, proclaiming declarations of faith. Yet, amidst their cries, uncertainty fluttered like a fragile bird, rattling the glass of doubt. And then, as if in answer to their prayers, a flash of light flickered through the stained glass. A beam landed directly on Margaret, illuminating her in a divine glow. Everyone gasped, sensing the sacred energy in that moment. Could it be? A trembling voice from the back broke the silence, eyes wide with astonishment. God is providing a sign? Margaret could feel the weight lifting, a divine assurance. It dawned on her, this was no mere coincidence. The storm was here, yes, but so was the light. They were called to bask in that very illumination, through their faith, to transform shadows into luminosity. Yet the questions nestled within Margaret's heart remained. Would they truly rise above the storm? Would their collective faith be strong enough to bring Daniel home? As she looked around the circle, determination and fear danced in the eyes of each person present. The conviction hung in the air, charged with purpose. With breath held, Margaret's spirit surged with anticipation. Tomorrow we will rise, together. Uncertainty lingered, but they would not shrink back. A promise whispered in the dawn of that moment. But would they stand firm as the storm approached? Would their light shine brighter than the darkness gathering around them? Only time would reveal the answers they sought. Margaret felt the electric energy in the air shift. Instinctively, she squeezed the hands of her companions. It was no ordinary moment. They could sense the presence of something greater than themselves. As murmurs of awe passed among them, they began to realize they were not only praying for Daniel, but also for the power of divine intervention to sweep through the village. Outside, the storm began to unleash its fury. The wind howled like the cries of 1,000 souls battling against despair. The rain poured, slapping against the windows like impatient fingers seeking entry. Yet, within the church, the atmosphere was alive with faith. They were anchored, without a doubt. Together we can bring light to the darkness. Margaret called again, her voice rising above the tempest. "We must cling to each other's faith, just like we cling to God's promise. We are warriors of light." Encouraged by her words, voices rose in harmonious agreement, filling every crevice of that sacred space. The sound reverberated, a powerful anthem rolling like thunder in defiance of the elements outside. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in his meeting, surrounded by fellow seekers. Each shared narrative deepened his sense of connection. They were strangers bound by shared scars, each telling their story of survival. He felt them lifting him now, forming a collective spirit stronger than he'd ever known. As a man beside him recounted his own struggle, a simple truth pierced through Daniel's heart. "God's love is our refuge," he said with fierce conviction. Daniel felt heat flood through him, a rush that chased away lingering fears. Perhaps he was not only fighting to survive, perhaps he was meant for something far greater. When it was Daniel's turn again, he took a deep breath. "I'm tired of hiding," he stated, emotion building in his chest. "I want to step into the light, like the light shining on Margaret." He briefly paused, envisioning the warmth radiating from her during prayer. "I need to believe that I am more than my past." In that sincere confession, Daniel unlocked something profound within himself. The supportive faces around him glimmered in the dim light, each displaying pride and understanding. They nodded in encouragement, a silent pact forging stronger bonds in that moment of vulnerability. Back in the church, the prayer circle began to pulse with life. Margaret felt a pull within her spirit. "Let's declare our faith," she urged, her voice ringing out above the winds. "Let us voice our belief in the promise of healing. God is greater than this storm." The villagers united, their voices harmonizing in a crescendo as they proclaimed scripture and call upon the divine.
Name of the Lord, sending ripples of hope into the dark clouds swirling beyond their walls. But amidst the fervor, Margaret sensed a deep feeling emerge, a reminder of those outside the church who might still be lost in the storm. What about those who can't fight, she wondered aloud. What about those who feel hopeless? God's love must shine for all. Suddenly, the stained glass windows of the church glowed even brighter, illuminating their faces with a celestial radiance. The shadows retreated, as though compelled by an unseen force. It was an echo of divine promise, yet tangled answers loomed in the depths of their sincerity. As faith and uncertainty collided within her, Margaret murmured softly, "God, please guide us. Show us how to help those who are lost." In unison, the congregation began to pray not just for themselves, but for everyone outside the protective walls, their united voices merging into a wave of compassion. As the storm raged on, they stood firm, every heart filled with hope, every spirit inflamed with purpose. In that moment, they became a lighthouse in the darkness, a beacon of divine love. And yet, lingering questions danced through their minds like the frayed edges of storm clouds. Would they find the strength to stand, not only for Daniel, but for everyone in need? Would their faith bear fruit amid the chaos? As dawn approached, a shimmer of expectancy filled the air. Eager breaths held tight in anticipation of what was to come. The answers loomed ahead, but they felt the presence of God with them, ready to guide their steps down the path of destiny. What incredible revelations awaited them with the morning light! Only time would unveil the next chapter of their shared journey. The first light of dawn broke through the storm-laden clouds, streaks of golden warmth streaming into the church. It illuminated the stained glass windows, casting vibrant colors upon the congregation. Margaret could feel the shift in the atmosphere within her, a gentle stirring whispering of hope and promise. They had weathered the storm together, but a new clarity was upon them now. "It's morning," she breathed, her voice trembling with emotion. "A time for revelation, a time to embrace the light." The villagers, still connected in spirit, opened their eyes, blinking against the brightness that seemed to dawn not only in the sky,
but in their hearts. An electric anticipation charged the air as they absorbed the significance of a new day. Was the storm only the beginning of something more profound? Daniel, still reflecting on his last heartfelt declaration, felt a sense of awakening within him. He rose from his seat, a quiet confidence wrapping around him like a cloak. I stand before you, not as the man I was, but as one transformed. God has indeed called us to be vessels of His grace. His words rang out, echoing against the church walls with the authority of divine truth. As he spoke, Margaret felt each heartbeat sinking with his.
"Yes, we are called to be brave warriors of His love," she shouted in agreement, rising to join him. The congregation stirred, their spirits igniting with the fervor of belief. Behind them, the storm seemed to quiet, almost as if it paused to listen. The wind was no longer an adversary, but rather a gentle breeze that ushered in a kind of divine presence. It was a reminder that obstacles could serve as springboards to greater revelations. "Let's share our visions," Daniel encouraged. "What is God speaking into your heart this morning?" One by one, the villagers began to speak. Each testimony brought forward a wave of divine insight. An elder man spoke of a time when he lost his way, but found himself renewed through prayer. A young mother shared how her trials in parenting had unveiled the strength of her faith. The stories blossomed like flowers in spring, ripe with spiritual nourishment they longed to share. Margaret felt the pulse of every heart, each spirit adding to a tapestry of divine connection. As voices intertwined, a gentle warmth enveloped the space, comforting them in a profound way. It was as if the very essence of love descended upon them, filling the vacant spaces left by doubt and despair. Then, from the back of the church, a timid voice spoke up. "What if we don't know how? How do we help those who are still lost?" It was a light-hearted question laced with deep honesty. A hush fell, and Margaret sensed something sacred rising, a moment for revelation. "Even in our uncertainty, we carry His light," Daniel replied with an encouraging nod. "Sometimes the simple act of reaching out, of sharing love, is the greatest ministry of all." The room filled with a collective sigh of understanding. They didn't need all the answers to take the next step. They needed only to act, to bear witness to the love that had carried them through their struggles. Even those who felt inadequate could shine brightly because of their willingness to step into the light. Margaret raised her hands towards the sun creeping into view, illuminating her joyful face. "Let us make a commitment," she exclaimed, "to be the light for those who are lost. Let us gather those who wander, just like the shepherd seeks out the lost sheep." As they affirmed her words, a new determination ignited within them. Their prayers transformed into promises, promises to act, to help, to serve. With each heartbeat, with each shared intention, they felt the ground beneath them solidify. They would stand as a beacon, not just for themselves, but for the entire village. The world outside may be tumultuous, but together they would rise, illuminating the darkness with love and compassion. Margaret turned to the gathering, her spirit soaring. "We are not merely survivors, we are the instruments of His grace. Who will join us on this mission, this path to awakening?" A ripple of agreement spread through the gathering, but deep within, questions echoed. In the space beyond their understanding. What would this new journey demand of them? Would they discover their true calling as they stepped into the light of purpose? As dawn broke fully, illuminating the land, the congregation felt the weight of the moment. Their hearts beat in unison, ready for the challenges ahead. What awaited them on this path lined with divine promise? Only time could unveil the unfolding mystery of their calling. As the sun continued to rise, the light spilled over the edges of the village, wrapping it in warmth. It felt as if the heavens had opened just for them, granting them a divine invitation to step forward into unknown territories. Margaret looked around at the familiar faces transformed by hope. The energy in the church felt palpable, vibrant with expectation, urging them toward action. The timid voice from before now belonged to a young girl named Esther, her wide eyes reflecting a mixture of excitement and fear. "But what if the lost just don't want to be found?" she questioned, her innocence bringing a hush over the room. Daniel stepped closer to the girl, kneeling down to meet her gaze. "Ah, sweet Esther, love doesn't demand, it simply offers," he replied, his voice carrying a deep understanding. "Sometimes the greatest acts of love are those that invite rather than impose." Margaret felt her heart lift as Daniel seized the moment. Let us remember the parable of the Good Samaritan. Sometimes the burden of rescuing the lost falls upon the feet of those willing to walk the extra mile. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Simple yet profound, Daniel's reassurance filled their spirits like a nourishing balm, igniting a fresh commitment. They were a family of faith, tasked with a mission greater than themselves. Then came a new voice from the back, an older woman named Ruth who had seen many seasons. Her wisdom woven into the very fabric of their community. "What if we don't know where to start?" she asked. In that moment, Margaret felt a spark of inspiration. "We must begin right here, right now," she urged, taking a deep breath to steady herself. "Let us start by sharing a meal together, breaking bread as one united family. From the warmth of our community, we can reach out." The idea resonated deeply. Gathering over food had always drawn their hearts closer. With each meal shared, walls crumbled and connections deepened. "Let's find those who need not just food for the body, but for the soul," Daniel echoed. A simple gesture, a meal, a smile, a moment of time, could become a flicker in the darkness for someone who feels lost. Margaret grabbed hold of the moment, fanning the flames of enthusiasm. What if we turn our church into a haven, a place where anyone, young or old, can come and feel loved? A welcoming home for all whose hearts are heavy. Heads nodded, eyes brightening. They could see the vision unfolding, each of them playing a part. A grand tapestry of hope. Esther raised her small hand, enthusiasm bubbling. "Can we invite the children too? They need to know where to find love." "Yes." The chorus of agreement brought laughter as they envisioned bright faces filling their gathering space. The children, with their pure spirits, had an uncanny ability to remind everyone of the joy that love could bring. As they planned, a magnificent shift took place in the atmosphere. Margaret could almost feel the presence of the divine in the joy of their resolve. What had started as timid words transformed into an unwavering commitment to be the light in each other's lives and to shine outward towards the village. Suddenly, a silence fell over the group. Each person stood still, their hearts synchronized in a moment of reflection, as they realized together that their task would not always be easy. How many hearts were out there burdened with doubt, loneliness, or despair? Yet an unshakable truth rooted itself in Margaret's heart. Their answer lay in their willingness to step towards those shadows, armed with love and compassion. The sun now poured fully into the church, illuminating the faces that shone with newfound purpose. Margaret raised her arms again, filled with the power of the moment. "Let us walk together, heart to heart, into the unknown. With every step, we will discover the joy of bearers of His light." But as they prepared to leave the sanctuary, the air thickened with the weight of unspoken concerns. Questions lingered. What obstacles would they face on this journey of love? Would the world be as welcoming as they hoped? Determined, they exited the church into the brightness of the day, each step a testament of faith, forging a path. For they had taken the first bold steps towards their calling. Now, as they ventured forward, they wondered what divine encounters awaited them along the way. Margaret stepped outside first, feeling the sun's warmth again, wrapping her in its embrace as if it shared in her mission. The villagers, once distant and hesitant, now walked together in a bond of newfound purpose. They breathed in the fresh, morning air, feeling invigorated, yet a mixture of trepidation lingered. As they began their walk through the village, Margaret glanced around. The homes stood quiet, yet the air buzzed with the promise of connection. She met Ruth's eye. The older woman smiled knowingly, her experience shining through, revealing that she understood the chapters still unwritten before them. "Look," Ruth pointed to the nearby park, where the laughter of children danced on the breeze. Esther, leading the way, ran ahead to beckon the little ones. "Their joy is like a river," Ruth said, her voice rich with wisdom. "It flows freely, reminding us that love does not hesitate." "Indeed," Daniel chimed in, smiling at the scene. "Children are the heart of our community. They hold the keys to pure acceptance. It's time to give them the gift of our love." As they walked,
the group began singing softly, a gentle melody rising to the heavens as an offering. Each note felt like a thread weaving them closer. As their voices reverberated off the buildings, it was as though they were reclaiming the village, and hope infused the very stones. They came to a corner where an elderly man, known as Mr. Whitaker, often sat, his mere presence a reminder of stories not shared. Today, he seemed lost in his thoughts. Margaret stopped, her heart drawn to him. "Good morning, Mr. Whitaker," she called out, her voice ringing with warmth. He looked up, surprise washing over his features, as if he were waking from a long slumber. "Ah, young Margaret, good to see you, dear." "Can we offer you a meal today?" she asked, reaching out her hand. "We're gathering our community together." A flicker of joy danced in Mr. Whitaker's eyes, yet shadows remained. "You're kind, but curiosity is a double-edged sword. Sending love can mean facing resistance." Daniel stepped forward, placing his hand upon Mr. Whitaker's shoulder with a gentle assurance. "Each step we take is a step into the light. Yes, there will be challenges, but love has the power to heal what is broken." Esther grabbed Daniel's other hand, her small fingers encapsulating his. "We have love to share. You've shared your stories with us, Mr. Whitaker. Let us create new tales of hope together." Margaret watched as they pulled Mr. Whitaker from his chair, slowly standing together. His face brightened, the dust of solitude beginning to lift. She felt a stirring within her spirit, a deep knowing that this was only the beginning. As they progressed further down the street, they reached the edge of the village where the woods stood. She turned, pausing, contemplating the wildness beyond. "We'll seek not just the lost in our village, but also in the woods of uncertainty. Each person we touch can multiply our love into the shadows." Their resolve drew the villagers together, hearts beating in unison now as they stood at the threshold of this unknown territory. Questions remained, but faith had blossomed into something majestic, unyielding. "Together," Daniel proclaimed, "let's venture deeper into the unknown. We will not only spread love, but also come to understand this sacred calling that awaits us." As they stepped forward, a gentle breeze whispered through the trees, carrying with it an unspoken promise, almost tangible. Esther looked up, her eyes sparkling. "What's next?" she asked, a heartbeat of curiosity echoing. The group paused, contemplating that very question, as the trees loomed ahead like guardians inviting them into divine revelation. What miracles might await them in unseen places? What lessons existed in the uncharted terrain before them? As they ventured on, one truth lingered amidst their shared silent prayers. The path they walked was not just theirs. It was a journey that held the potential to transform not just hearts, but the very fabric of their lives forever. And now, as the sun dipped low, casting an ethereal glow, a flicker of divine light shone ahead, hinting that they were not alone. What awaited them in that enchanting twilight? The trees rustled softly, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind, as Margaret and the villagers pushed forward into the heart of the woods. Each step they took was soaked in anticipation, a pounding rhythm pulsing through their collective hearts. Was it excitement, fear, perhaps both? As the golden rays of the setting sun filtered through the branches, illuminating their path, Margaret felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. It was as though hope had taken form, wrapping itself around her like a comforting shawl. With each breath, she inhaled the fragrance of damp earth and wildflowers, the essence of life itself alive in every scent. "Do you feel that?" Daniel asked, glancing sideways at Margaret. His eyes sparkled with a childlike wonder. Margaret nodded, her heart swelling. "It's as if the woods are alive, breathing with us." She remembered the days when doubt clouded her vision, when the world felt heavy and dark. But here, amidst the trees, light burst forth in vibrant colors, showing her that even the shadows held a promise. Ruth stepped forward, her pace steady. "There is a stillness in the air, a peace that invites us to listen," she said softly. "Sometimes we feel the need to rush through life, but today we must pay attention to what's being revealed to us." Esther, well ahead, called back to them, "Look at all the flowers, they're so beautiful." She bent down to touch a delicate blossom, her fingers dancing across petals, as if greeting an old friend. "Beauty in the midst of wilderness," Daniel smiled. "Nature, like our hearts, is often wild, but so full of grace." As they ventured deeper, a clearing opened before them. A gentle stream flowed, shimmering like silver under the fading light. It seemed to call out, echoing with the laughter of water tumbling over stone, drawing them in. Margaret knelt by the bank, wriggling her fingers in the cool water. The sensation sent ripples of joy fluttering through her. "This is a moment, a holy pause," she said reverently, admiring the environment around her. "We must give ourselves space to reflect on why we are here." Truth hung in the air, poised and pristine, as they silently shared glances, soaking in the brilliance of this sanctuary. Looking around, she saw the weariness on Mr. Whitaker's face transform into something lighter. She could feel a spiritual shift blossoming among them, a blooming awareness of life intertwined with love. As if sensing the change, the forest shifted ever so slightly, a wind picking up, swirling leaves around them like confetti of the divine. In that moment, Esther gasped, her voice trembling. "Do you see? The light! It's dancing!" Indeed, there was a shimmering aura at the core of the grove, a glow that beckoned with a warmth that felt almost like a heartbeat. "Do you think, could it
"Be a sign?" Daniel mused, leaning closer towards the radiance that pulsed invitingly. Margaret felt an urgency in her soul, an invitation to step boldly toward that light. "Let's gather together! In unity, let's reach out!" She took the hands of those nearest to her, feeling the familiar tingle of faith and trust flow between them. As voices intertwined with the melody of the moment, something extraordinary began to uncoil. The light shimmered brighter, casting radiant beams across their faces that illuminated their spirits. They stood in awe, transformed by a power far greater than themselves. In that instant, Margaret could almost hear a whisper in her spirit, urging her to embrace the unfolding miracle around them. "You are seen. You are loved." The air grew heavy with expectation, anticipation thick like honey. What new revelations awaited them in this enchanted place? And as the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon, another voice broke through the silence, a voice they hadn't heard yet, calling them toward their destiny. What truths would it unveil? What calling would it awaken within them? The soft glow of the light wrapped around them like divine silk, shimmering with promises untold. Margaret squeezed the hands of her fellow seekers, a circle of kindred spirits breathing as one. Their hearts drummed in sync with a rhythm of expectation. What did this light mean? An answered prayer? A revelation yet to come? Listen, Ruth whispered, her eyes wide, captivated by the unfolding mystery. The whispers of the trees quieted, as if attuning themselves to the sacred moment. In response, serenity settled upon their shoulders, heavy yet freeing, like a cloak forged in love. From the heart of the grove came a voice, soft yet powerful, resonating across the clearing. "You have sought, and now I reveal." The words hung in the air, a delicate melody that vibrated in the depths of their souls. Margaret shivered, both thrilled and terrified. "Is it truly him?" Daniel breathed, a mixture of awe and caution in his tone. His fingers trembled gently in Margaret's grip. "I think it is," she replied, her voice barely a whisper, as though speaking too loudly would shatter the sacred atmosphere. "We must be open to whatever comes next." Esther's eyes sparkled with unshed tears, reflecting the divine light in radiant pools. "What if it's our turn to discover our purposes?" she ventured, vulnerability lacing her voice. The thought hung in the air, stirring a whirlwind of emotion in each heart. A soft gust of wind began to swirl again, and the shimmering light melded into colors unknown, a heavenly paintbrush sweeping across the scene. From where they stood, it seemed to draw shapes and symbols in the air, revealing something profound that went beyond mere sight. As if in answer, the voice continued, "Fear not, for you are chosen. Each of you carries a light that the world needs. Your time has come." The words echoed, weaving through the stillness of the grove. Wrapping around their hearts like a gentle embrace, Margaret felt something shift within her, a seed of faith beginning to bloom into a sprawling vine. She could feel the divine presence urging her, whispering truth into her very core. "I am chosen. I can be a light," she murmured, repeating it like a sacred mantra. "Show us the way," Daniel cried out, his voice brimming with fervor. "We want to follow, to embrace whatever purpose you have for each of us." The light pulsed, deepening in hue, as if granting Daniel's request. Shapes unfurled in the air above them, the silhouettes of paths visible yet obscured, leading in myriad directions, each winding toward a profound destiny. Margaret watched in wide-eyed wonder, her heart racing. The forest seemed to come alive. The gentle rustling of the leaves took on a cadence, guiding their thoughts toward unity and purpose. Would they dare to follow these paths, each choice a ripple in the fabric of their lives and beyond? Then the voice turned tender. "You must tread with courage, my beloved ones. The journey won't always be easy, but every step taken in faith will shine brighter than the stars." As the last flickers of sunlight surrendered to the night, Margaret felt a new clarity unfold within her. She could no longer ignore the tug of something greater, a calling woven intricately into her very soul. "What if," she whispered aloud, her eyes sparkling with conviction, "what if we each shared our dreams, our visions? Together we are stronger." She felt the warmth of hope wrap around her, igniting her spirit and sparking joy in her companions. "Then let's gather our dreams," Esther's voice rose, vibrant with excitement. "Let's shine together." And in that sacred grove, a chorus of hearts joined in fervent prayer, each voice intertwined, each spirit alight with purpose. Would they make the leap into the unknown? The light danced eagerly above them, almost tangible in its energy, urging them onward. As they prayed, waiting for divine guidance, a single star burned bright overhead, its glow reflecting the light that now illuminated their spirits. What awaited beyond the grove? What divine adventures unfolded because of their unity? That night, the call of destiny echoed through the trees, inviting them into a deeper understanding of their purpose. What divine surprises were hidden in the shadows, waiting to be revealed? As dawn broke anew, casting ribbons of golden light through the trees, a sense of undeniable purpose filled the air. Margaret stood at the edge of the grove, her heart brimming with hope and expectation. The village, once shrouded in shadows, now felt alive with faith, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath her feet. "We're here, as a family of faith," she said, turning to her fellow seekers. Each face reflected the light that had danced in the grove, each heart beating in unison as they stepped forward into their purpose. Ruth, filled with a wisdom only age and experience could impart, shared her heart. "Let's not just wander aimlessly. Every step we take should lead us to serve those who need it most." Her voice held a gentle authority, reminding them of the commitment they had made to be vessels of divine love. Esther's eyes sparkled as she clasped her hands together. "I want to bring the children. Let's show them that love can change lives." Her eagerness felt contagious, igniting a fire in their midst. Daniel took a deep breath, the weight of his past lifting with each exhale. "Yes, together we shall shed light on the dark corners, inspire joy, and radiate hope," he exclaimed. "Each smile we share is like a lantern guiding the lost." As they moved forward, the grove beckoned them deeper. Sunlight spilled through the trees, illuminating a path lined with the vibrant flowers they had admired the night before. Every step they took felt preacher-like, as though they were walking on holy ground. Each footfall a testament to the commitment they had made. Margaret felt the divine presence wrap around them like a warm cloak. "We must remember, this isn't just about us. Our community is waiting. Together, we will touch every heart that crosses our path." Empowered by this shared vision, their voices united in joyful song. They echoed through the woods, sending ripples of love through the air, converging like an invisible force ready to envelop the village. Here they were not merely seekers, they had become bearers of light, messengers of hope. As the sun climbed higher, they emerged from the woods into the village square. There, on weathered cobblestones, the familiar faces of friends and neighbors awaited them. The villagers stared in awe, witnessing the transformation, seeing the light radiating from Margaret and her companions. Margaret raised her arms, filled with the spirit of divine conviction. "Let us gather, let us share the gifts we've received. Today, we begin anew, a journey that invites everyone to be part of our family." Cries of joy erupted as they felt the warmth of acceptance embrace them. People gathered, intrigued by the newfound energy surrounding Margaret and the 12 seekers, drawn like moths to a flame. "Can we help?" a young man named Thomas asked, stepping forward. "I've been feeling lost, and I longed for something more." "Then you are welcome," Daniel encouraged, a smile breaking across his face. "Join our mission. Together we can create a haven for every missing piece." As the crowd grew, they took time to listen, to share stories of struggle and resilience. Margaret's heart surged at each tale, the testimonies woven into a rich tapestry of life before her. This was the essence of community, the truth that they could rise together. A beautiful exchange unfolded, hearts opening like flowers kissed by the morning sun. They envisioned nights of laughter, shared meals, and joyous connections. "Let us create something beautiful here," Margaret said, a voice steady, a space where all are welcome, to share, to heal, to transform. Cheers erupted through the square as families embraced this vision, minds shifting from despair to hope. The villagers began rolling up their sleeves, eager to share their talents, passion, and love. In the hours that followed, what began as a small gathering blossomed into a festival of faith. Laughter rang out like bells, food was shared, and prayers released with every heartbeat. Children danced, newly welcomed, under the shade of the trees, the light of love flowing between them all like a river. As the sun dipped low, casting soft, warm hues across the horizon, Margaret stood before the crowd, her eyes sparkling with divine joy. "Together, we are living testimony to what love can accomplish. This is not merely a day, this is a new beginning for all of us." The crowd roared in affirmation, their spirits lifted, their faith renewed. In that sacred moment, everything felt possible. They had forged a bond that transcended fear and uncertainty, a connection stronger than any hardship they had endured. Suddenly, she spotted familiar faces approaching from the edge of the village, some struggling, but all radiating determination. Daniel, taking inspiration from Margaret's sight, lifted his voice and declared, "This love is contagious. Let's gather all who seek the light." Hearts began to stir with a new understanding, crowds merged, prophetic affirmations echoed, and the energy pulsed through the air, inviting yet another wave of souls who needed to feel the warmth of community. As the day turned to twilight, the villagers formed a chain, hands clasped, a brilliant light illuminating their circle. "May our lights shine brightly, drawing others into this sacred space," Margaret prayed, tears of gratitude in her eyes. They remained united, leaning into one another's strength, each heart beating with purpose as they stepped into what was to come. And as the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Margaret felt a vibrant peace settle within her, a promise, a fulfilled calling. They had answered the divine revelation. Together they would be the light that would shine against any darkness that tried to creep into their lives. This was just the start. They would carry this love into every corner of their lives, forever transformed by the power of community, faith, and hope. As they departed into the night, Margaret took one last glance back at the growing crowd, her heart swelling with joy. "This is just the beginning," she whispered, knowing they had ignited a flame that would never be extinguished. Now it was time to share the story beyond the village, time to let others know the light could shine and life could bloom again. So as this chapter closes, dear friends, let your hearts echo their journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Let's spread this light further. Comment your reactions and testimonies about the ending. Your words matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. You need to subscribe now, for this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Be the servant God calls you to be.